Welcome to the October 9th TV Toastmasters meeting. Today our Toastmaster is going to be Verna Gibson. Verna is an ATM Bronze and a competent leader. She is also the Area 57 Governor for Toastmasters. We have a good meeting today for you folks that are looking in from home, and welcome. This show will be broadcast during the month of November. And I would like to invite you to come and visit us. Our November meeting will be held on Saturday, November 20th at 9 a.m. at the Anderson Union Township Community Television Studio. We will also have our Monday meeting for TV Toastmasters on November 1st at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Kenwood, and that meeting starts at 6:30. With that, I'm going to welcome our Toastmaster for today up here, Verna Gibson. Verna.
I want to welcome everybody in our studio as well as our TV audience to our TV Toastmaster meeting. We're going to have a good meeting. I think you'll enjoy our speaker. We have a distinguished Toastmaster who's going to give a speech today. Actually, it's going to be an interview, but we'll talk more about that later. So, I want to welcome everybody and begin the meeting. Before I start, I'd like to begin with a little bit of humor. A fellow walked into a restaurant with his pet panda, and he ordered a meal for both of them, which they ate, enjoyed the meal. When they finished eating, as they got up to leave, the panda drew a gun out of his pouch and shot a couple holes into the ceiling. Well, of course, the restaurant owner got really upset over it. He said, what was that all about? Why did you do that? And so the fellow pulls a dictionary out of his pocket, and he says, look it up in the dictionary. He's a panda. He eats, shoots, and leaves. So, with that little bit of humor, we will go ahead with our meeting. The first person I'd like to call up is Rick Davis. Rick Davis is a distinguished Toastmaster, and he is going to give us our word power for the day. So let's welcome Rick. Rick Davis.
Thanks, Verna. The word for today, the word that we're going to try to use in our table topics and our speeches as we go along, is extraordinary. And extraordinary, of course, means more than ordinary, above ordinary. So we are going to have an extraordinary meeting today. We're going to have an extraordinary time, and that's the word we're going to use today.
Extraordinary. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. And it is going to be an extraordinary meeting. So at this time, moving right along, I'm going to call Carol Kormelink to the lectern. Carol is a distinguished Toastmaster, and she is going to give us some table topics. Carol.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our visitors viewing audience at home. The purpose of table topics is to learn extraordinary ability to think quickly, to listen intently, think quickly, and answer effectively. You have from 1 to 2 minutes to have a reply, and you will be signaled with the finger. You'll get the finger when you have spoken for 1 minute, and you wait until you see the finger. You keep talking until you see the finger, and then we know the rest of the timing. My extraordinary table topics today, I have a really hard time with funerals. My friend was one of my best friends, moved to Texas, and her husband's brother died, and the funeral was yesterday. I didn't go, but I'm going to see them tonight. Now, this is an awkward situation for me because I really don't know how to pay respects for the deceased brother. So I know someone knows all about this. Jerome Manigan, would you please come up and tell me how do I pay my respects tonight when I see them? Jerome Manigan.
Thank you, Toastmaster Carol. Don't leave. I'd like for you to stay because I think there are some questions that I need to ask you. You are going to visit with this family here in Cincinnati this evening.
Right, they're up from Texas.
They're up from Texas. Has the funeral been held?
Yes,
And that was held
yesterday morning.
here in Cincinnati?
Yes.
Did you attend?
No, I did not.
All right. Now, did you know the deceased very well?
I did not know the deceased at all.
You are friends to what relative?
The deceased brother's wife.
The deceased brother's wife. What is it you would like to say to the wife? Why do you feel that you want to share in this moment of sadness?
Well, because she was one of my best friends, and this is her husband's relative that I did not know. And I feel that I have an obligation to convey my condolences, but I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Did you prepare a dish to take?
No, we're meeting at a restaurant.
You're meeting at a restaurant. Did you send flowers?
No, I did not,
Have
because I
you-
didn't know it.
Have you
Okay.
purchased a sympathy card?
I have those at home.
All right. Have you taken one
Take a
out
card.
and
No, I have not.
all right.
Take a
Well,
card, okay?
number one, I would suggest that you take the card and then express your heartfelt condolences to the widow. Is it the widow?
I don't know her. I
Okay.
guess she'll be
It's
there.
the wife.
I don't know who's going to be there from the deceased family,
Okay. All right.
because I don't know them.
Always, in cases such as this, be sincere. Express your heartfelt condolences. Take a card. Send some flowers. Bake a pie, bake a cake, bake a ham. Take a feast.
Okay?
Let them know that you share with them in their sadness. All right?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jerome. And I didn't look to see what kind of time we had there. One of the nice things about being in Toastmasters is that you receive a Toastmaster magazine every month. Sometimes it just gets put aside and you don't really read what's in the magazine. One of the articles that I found very helpful to me, or very interesting, was A Voice of His Own about an autistic person, and I thought it was clever. His mom finally got him to join Toastmasters, and he said that when his mom first talked him into joining Toastmasters to practice speaking, that was great, but hanging out with a bunch of Toastmasters is kind of boring. You talk too much for me. And I thought that was a very clever thing. So I want to know, in the Toastmaster magazine, what article appealed to you this month? Rick Davis.
Carol, I'm glad you asked that question because I memorize my Toastmaster magazine every month, which is really a good feat because I don't think I've opened one in about 4 months. It is a very good magazine. I really enjoy it. There are a number of first-person kinds of things that I usually like to read, talking about personal experiences, talking about how Toastmasters has impacted their lives, and I really enjoy reading those kinds of stories. Unfortunately, like I say, I haven't had a chance to pick up a Toastmaster magazine in a while, and I have a stack of things that I'm working on right now to read, and that's worked its way to the top, and I'm going to be picking up something probably in the next couple of days, and I will get back to you.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. And I think it's neat that they show all the photographs from the convention, and I thought it was neat that I knew the outgoing president, that I had met him, and that I knew Chris Ford, who was just elected as the third vice president of the organization, of Toastmasters International. So when you go outside your club, you get to meet people international. Our outgoing president is from Australia. Is that where he's from? I think he was. And our incoming one is from Illinois. Okay, so enough about the Toastmaster magazine. Another thing in Toastmasters about going beyond your club is the district conference. So, Joe Schwerling, I'd like to know why we should go to the district conference, and if you will come up and give us some information about our fall conference that is coming up. Joe Schwerling.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Twice a year, each district of Toastmasters International holds a conference. One in the fall, which is usually October to November, and another one in the spring, usually April or May. Although it varies by district, generally, and in our district here, which includes parts of Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia, our fall conference, it's also the runoff event for the humorous speech and table topics contests. And that's the concluding point of those two contests. When the spring conference cycle comes around, there's an evaluation contest and then an international speech contest. And that speech goes on, the winner of each district competes against 7 other districts in a particular region at a regional conference, and then goes from there to compete against 9 representatives from 8 international regions, plus the rest of the Toastmasters clubs around the world that aren't in assigned districts or assigned regions. You get a chance to observe better speakers, observe more proficient evaluators, have a lot of fun. Every Toastmasters event is like a big family reunion. You meet people you may have met before. Even if you never met them before, you're doing similar things in your meetings every week, so you have so much in common. Additionally, you have good workshops. Usually there's several tracks where you work toward your own self-improvement, leadership skills, giving speeches. So whatever you want, you do in Toastmasters in general, you can work on that individual track at a Toastmasters conference and have a lot of fun.
Thank you, Joe. You didn't mention that you've been extraordinary in attending almost all of the conferences around this area, not just for our district, but for half a dozen other districts and regions around. I am the spring conference registration chairperson, and my goal is to have as many people come to the conference as possible, and I would like to know why or why not you have attended a conference. Nellie Bowen, if you would tell us why or why not that you have or have not attended a conference. Nellie is working the camera, so it'll take a moment for her to get her headphones off and get up here. So we keep clapping until they get here because this gives them a wave of energy to get up here.
Now, the question was, well, I was getting the headphones off. What was my question?
Why or why not you have attended the conference?
No, I have never attended. And the reason, first of all, is it's rather expensive. I mean, some of us have a little problem with that. But I'm sure I would enjoy it, and maybe it's one of these times I will, but so far I haven't. And also, I feel that if you're more advanced in Toastmasters, you would probably enjoy it more. And I am enjoying something in Toastmasters a lot of people aren't. This is the first organization I've ever been in where I didn't feel driven to go to the top, to feel like if I didn't run it, there was something wrong. Now I don't want to. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the social part, I enjoy what I learn, but most of all, the friends I've made. And to me, that is the most important thing, and the other, to me, actually is secondary.
Thank you, Nellie. And I was wondering whether or not expense of the conference, it is a little more expensive than attending a Toastmaster meeting because you're paying for banquet meals and you're paying a registration fee. But when I had asked some people why they didn't come, they didn't say that. They just said that they didn't know that much about it. So you like to meet people, Nellie, and when you're at a conference, you meet people from all over, and it's really neat to go out of town and say, oh, I met you at a conference. So I think that is neat. Another article in the magazine that I think we all need to take heed to is how to have a difference of opinion without it getting ugly. And so, Verna, would you please come up and tell us, how do you communicate with a person that you're having a difference of opinion with without making an enemy? Verna Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Tabletopics Master. Well, it's very interesting that I just gave a speech on diffusing verbal criticism. So I think that that would be a good answer for this. And the first thing that you need to do is to listen. You need to be able to listen with an open mind and actually, well, as I said, with an open mind and really pay attention to what the person is saying. And the next thing that you need to do is to acknowledge that person. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, they have a right to their opinion. That are their feelings. So you need to acknowledge that. And yes, admit that the person, they're upset. Acknowledge the fact that that person is upset. And listen to what they're saying. And then third is to ask questions. This shows that you're really listening, and it also helps you to understand what the person is really saying. So you need to ask some questions, and this makes the person feel better because they know that you're listening. Next is to paraphrase. This clarifies a lot of the issues. Repeat back what you think that you're hearing, because sometimes what you're hearing is really not what they're saying, or what they hear you saying is not necessarily what they really intended to say. So it works both ways. And the last thing is to agree. Agree with the facts. You do not have to agree with the interpretation of the facts, but agree with the facts of what the person has said. If the person is, for instance, if someone is upset that you have forgotten their birthday, your mother perhaps is upset you've forgotten her birthday, then agree with the fact that, yes, you forgot the birthday, but you do not have to agree with the interpretation that because you forgot the birthday, you no longer love your mother. So that is the way to diffuse verbal criticism.
And I have one other part to that. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, has it made a sound? And I have the same question. If you're upset with someone and you never let them know,
They don't know.
right. So you have to communicate with the people.
Both,
Okay,
right.
that's what I want to know. And
Thank
thank you. I was not aware that you had just given that, so that was extraordinary, a great answer on how to resolve the problem. And with that, I have finished my table topics for today, and we are going to take a short break so we can set up for our speakers for the day. Madam Toastmaster, I should have just let you stay up here, Verna.
Thank you. And as our Table Topics Master just said, we'll take a short break.
Hi, I'm Rick Davis, and welcome. We're going to speak with Steve Ahrenholz, who is the president of TV Toastmasters. Steve, would you come forward, please? Hi, Steve.
Morning, Rick.
So you are the president of TV Toastmasters. How long have you been a member of Toastmasters?
I've been a member of Toastmasters since 1993.
Uh-huh. And you're a member of not only this club, but other clubs?
That's correct. My primary Toastmasters club is NIOSH Toastmasters. It's a club where I work. And then TV Toastmasters is the second club that I belong to.
And what is it about TV Toastmasters that it wants you to belong to two clubs? You want to belong to two clubs?
Well, TV Toastmasters is an advanced club. So it offers us opportunities to do some of the things that are maybe a little more difficult to work into a regular club meeting. We can accommodate some of the advanced manual presentations more easily than you might with a club meeting like my home club, which is NIOSH Toastmasters, where we're constrained to an hour. We're a lunchtime club, and so we have strict adherence to that time frame. As a Toastmaster, you still want to adhere to the time limits that are set, but since TV Toastmasters meets on a Saturday morning and also a Monday evening, we do have the flexibility of adjusting how long our meeting runs based upon what kind of advanced speeches the club members are doing. Additionally, if there are some specific requirements for the presentation itself, sometimes you have to have additional people participate as a part of the speech, or possibly you're doing a presentation that involves more than one part. It may have a presentation section, and then it will have a question and answer period, or it might have some other component that requires the additional time.
What kinds of projects are involved in these advanced projects? You're talking about like advanced manuals and basic manuals and that sort of thing?
Well, the basic manuals, which are what everyone starts with, and it's also something that a lot of Toastmasters go back and work through because it is a really good presentation of the different basics that go into public speaking. The more advanced speeches can vary in a couple of ways. You may have some that are, such as in the storytelling manual, where you're having to have 10 to 15 minutes, which is fairly long. There are some other manuals that are dealing with educational instruction, where you will have a demonstration portion. You can have a press conference where you are giving an initial presentation and then you field questions from the audience. So what happens in those kinds of projects is that you may have anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, something like that, for your prepared portion, your formally prepared portion. And then you may need to allow another 5 to 8 minutes, something like that, for an interactive portion of the speech. And so with an advanced club, we do have the flexibility in our scheduling to accommodate this. The other thing is that some of these manuals require that you have other people participate in it with you, such as a panel presentation. Kind of hard to do a panel presentation by yourself. So that's one of the things that is nice about an advanced club. Another thing that TV Toastmasters does, and one of the reasons that I was interested in it, is because it provides a little different venue for you to develop your speaking skills in. A lot of people don't have a real perspective of how they look on camera. We, as a part of Toastmasters, always have an evaluation component in our meetings where we will tell you as a speaker what you have done well and some of the areas that you may want to try and develop further, your growth areas. When we do our filming at TV Toastmasters, because we film during our Saturday meetings, you actually have the opportunity, if you'd like, to see yourself. So in addition to the evaluation that's been given to you, you get to see it firsthand.
Very objective eye.
Sometimes more objective than you might like. But it is an opportunity to become comfortable with speaking under some different circumstances. Some clubs have, in the past, gone to videotaping their meetings, but I'm not aware of any club locally that is doing that right now. And then, in addition to having the opportunity to see yourself, it is interesting how once in a while someone will say to you, "I saw you on TV." Or one of my neighbors will say, "Were you on TV the other night? You were talking about something, and it sounded just like you," which may or may not be what you want to hear.
Now, Carol talked about some additional things that you can do beyond the club level. I know that you are involved in some contests now. What makes a person want to get involved in a humorous speech contest or an international speech contest?
Well, speech contests are an opportunity to, first of all, hear other speakers that are quite proficient. It's also fun to participate in these because, as we tend to point out in Toastmasters, there are no losers. You'll have someone who will be selected to go on to the next contest level, whether that's the area, the division, or the district. But you have a chance to see how well you're doing. You know, it's feedback that you get directly. There are several different kinds of contests that Toastmasters actually does. During the fall, we have our humorous speech contest and Tabletopics.
Right.
Now, the humorous speech contest is an opportunity to see different types of humor that people are adept at presenting. Tabletopics is impromptu speaking. It evaluates how well you can pull together your thoughts and present them with very little preparatory time. In the spring, we have the International Speech Contest, which generally tends to be inspirational in nature. It can be humorous, it can be serious, but it tends to have an inspirational overtone. And then we also have evaluation contest in the spring. What evaluation contests do is evaluate how different people present constructive feedback to people on their speaking skills. I've actually served as a target speaker for the evaluation contest, and what a target speaker is the person who presents a speech, and then all of the contestants provide an evaluation for that speaker. What happens is you wind up with 4 or 5 evaluations for the same speech, and it's interesting to see what different people will point out.
Right.
And as a speaker, you get a lot of feedback, a lot more feedback than you might get otherwise.
Right.
But like I say, you get feedback on what you're doing well, what people like about what you're doing, and also some things that you can develop further. Usually we have an idea what our weaknesses are.
Right.
Sometimes we don't, but we get feedback from people outside of ourselves telling us how successful we're at actually making those changes.
Now, the International Speech Contest goes all the way up to what Carol was talking about before, the International Convention. Have you ever been to an international convention?
Yes, I actually did get to one several years ago. I forget what year it was. We had the Toastmasters International Conference convention in Chicago. That is a really good experience for any Toastmasters who have never attended it. The educational sessions that they have are quite broad. There is so much to pick from that usually what happens, at least I find for myself, there's a couple of things I'd like to go to at the same time.
Right.
It's a little bit of a quandary as to which ones I will actually go to. You also get to see and meet Toastmasters from all over the world. Not only the United States, but all over the world. You get to see and meet some of these people that you hear about or you'll see in Toastmasters magazine. The contestants that participate in the International Speech Contest are also excellent. For 5 to 7 minutes, you get to hear a number of these inspirational speeches. And it gives us all something to aspire to because we're all capable of continuously improving in what we do.
Great.
I also thought that one of the other things that was nice about the International is you get to meet Toastmasters from around the country and around the world, but also you have a chance to meet Toastmasters within your own area that you might not have run into otherwise. You have something more in common. When you're at an international, you are meeting people from your own Toastmasters area, maybe your district or something, that you wouldn't have run into otherwise.
Well, I appreciate you speaking with us today, and I really look forward to further meetings of TV Toastmasters, and thank you for coming.
Well, we're thrilled you're here.
I'd like to call back our Toastmaster for today, Verna Gibson.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. That was a great interview, and I learned a lot myself from that. So thank you, Steve, for helping Rick with that interview. At this time, we're going to move into the evaluation portion of our program. One of the advantages of being a member of the Toastmaster Club is that when you talk, you are given an evaluation, and it's the evaluation that actually helps you to grow and improve on weak areas that you might have, which we all have. So at this time, I'm going to call our general evaluator up to the lectern. Our general evaluator for today is Joe Swirling, so help me to welcome Joe.
And the first order of business in the evaluation part of the meeting is to start with the specific evaluations on each speech. So at this point, I'd like to welcome up Jerome Manigan for his evaluation of Rick Davis's presentation. Jerome.
Thank you, Toastmaster Joe Swirling. The topic that Rick spoke on was when you are the host. And Rick, I believe you originally presented this on February the 16th, 2002. So this was a rerun of something that you had done once before, and at the first doing had done extraordinarily well, and at this doing you have done well also. I'm going to start with the last question. How effective do you feel the speaker would have been had it been a real talk show? I think that he would have been seen and heard as effective. He certainly solicited questions of the guests that provided us with a lot of information about Toastmasters, not only at the club level, but at the international conference level. How did the speaker's appearance, clothing, makeup, etc. affect your impression of the presentation? Well, I think that your dress was quite appropriate. And other than that, I don't really know what to say. You looked well, and I think that if, not if, because you are on television, I think that you came across well. How well did the speaker relate to the television camera and the studio audience? Was eye contact with the camera made at the appropriate times? And I did have a problem with that. You had a profile most of the time. I think that we could see a full face shot of Steve, but the majority of the time we had a profile of you. Occasionally you looked to the camera, but the majority of the time you were looking at Steve, so we had a profile of you. And I realized that there are limitations imposed on you as host using this particular setting. But for the most part, I think that you had good relationship with the you can't have a relationship with a camera, can you? I hope not. Anyway, did the speaker appear relaxed? Yes, you did. Was the guest feel of expertise? Did the speaker make this clear in the guest's introduction? Yes, you did. And obviously, as president and as a longtime member of Toastmasters, Steve had and did give us lots of information. How effectively did the speaker lead the interview? Very effectively. Were the questions clear? Yes. Were they in logical sequence? Yes. How well prepared was the speaker? I would think that your preparation indicated that you were very well prepared. Now, having said all of that about Rick's presentation, I must say something about this word extraordinary. I have always been intrigued with this word extraordinary. When you look at it, you see two words, extraordinary. And it makes me wonder if the real meaning of the word is mediocre. Mediocre. Because if something is ordinary and it is now extraordinary. Is it not just mediocre? I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerome. Very extraordinary evaluation and comments. As far as my feedback as general evaluator on your evaluation, I think you did very well. You had as with all our manual speeches that have objectives, you followed the outline of the evaluation form and answering the questions that were part of the, particularly those that are part of the objectives for that particular speech. You gave a lot of positive feedback on things that were performed well and gave some specific suggestions and comments on things to improve and to consider, like, again, as to how Rick's profile, or as we're pointing toward either the camera or toward the person that's being that the discussion is with. And as you indicated, it's a matter that just has to be, well, it's kind of a balancing between giving attention to the cameras, but also looking to the person you're talking to. And the term that's frequently used on that is cheating, which is, although in school you don't want that to be done, but you cheat a little bit to one side or the other so that you appear to be directing your attention in both directions. And now that we're operating with multiple cameras on our video presentations, we have the opportunity where we have cameras coming from both sides, so that it's less noticeable than from just one side of the audience. So, as far as I'll get into my extraordinary grammarian's report at this point. I didn't notice too much other than a few ahs and ums now and then. No other, besides myself. The ahs and ums are always something we need to watch and try to just keep our mouth shut and pause whenever we can't think of what else to say next, or while we're organizing our thoughts. I think overall we've had a very good meeting so far, and inasmuch as our Toastmaster is also our timer for today, I'd like to welcome back our Toastmaster and timer for the timing report and Toastmaster role. Please welcome Verna Gibson.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Yes, I have been taking multiple roles today. I'm multitasking. As far as the times, on the table topics, Jerome had 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Rick was 53 seconds. Joe Swirling was 2 minutes and 12 seconds. And Nellie had 1 minute and 11 seconds. And I was 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Rick, on your interview with Steve, you had 10 minutes and 20 seconds. And Jerome, your evaluation of Rick was 3 minutes and 29 seconds. And Rick, did you have anything else to add today to the grammarian's report?
I think everybody used the word of the day. I think everybody...
All right. That's great. Let's give ourselves a hand. We are extraordinary. Extraordinary. And Jerome, I had never thought of it that way before. I will never use that word again now without thinking, what does this really mean? Thank you for that. I think we have had a great meeting. I have enjoyed being your Toastmaster. And at this time, I am going to turn it over to our club president, Steve Ahrenholz. So help me to welcome Steve back to the lectern. Steve, Mr. President.
Thank you, Verna. Thank you to all of our viewing audience that has joined us today. Thank you to the Toastmasters here in our studio. As I had mentioned at the beginning of our meeting today, this show will be played during the month of November. And I had neglected to mention at the beginning of our meeting the nature of a Toastmasters Club. The objective of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a nurturing environment for the development of an individual's communication and leadership skills. I would encourage you to come and visit us either at our Saturday morning meeting, which we hold at 9 a.m. at the Anderson Union Township Community Television Studio, the third Saturday of each month, or join us on a Monday evening at 6:30, the first Monday of each month, at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Kenwood. Our director today is Nikki Bishop. Our camera people are Nellie Bowen and myself. I will look forward to seeing you folks next month on our Saturday meeting, which will be November 20th. And with that, we'll adjourn.